Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Suidlanders chat program that me and Simon Roche has been doing for quite a while, where we talk about the week's happenings. And I mean, this past couple of days, there's been a lot happening. Hello, Simon. How are you?
Well, thanks, and you, Marius.
No, I can't complain. And yeah, well, I guess we should jump right into it. And I reckon the main topic will be Israel and Iran for today.
Yeah, I'm coming to you guys from a taxi in Moscow. I am running around like a chicken with its head chopped off, as my father would say. I've had to submit some documents in town, in the city, uh, and it's there's a lot of traffic, and it's a long journey from the suburb in which I'm staying in the hotel to the city. So unfortunately, the time didn't work out ideally, but hopefully we'll still be able to talk some sense from the taxi in Moscow all the way to the Orange River in South Africa.
Yeah,
Oh no,
yeah. I
Namibia!
mean,
You're still in Namibia.
I'm in Namibia at this moment, and our other colleague is in Uppington. It's wonderful how technology can work for you in situations like this. But yeah, almost nothing will stop us to try and do our Tuesdays and Thursdays chat.
Mm. Yeah, let me begin, Marius. There's a lot to say. If I maybe say too much, please feel free to interrupt me with thoughts or questions or observations, uh, because there is a lot to say. On Friday past, Israel launched an attack on Iran. The attack had many facets to it. It was composed of drones from inside of Iran, from trucks that had been smuggled into Iran, and jets flying above Iraqi airspace, firing, dropping bombs and firing missiles into Irani airspace. Anybody who's not familiar with the layout there should have a brief look on Google Earth. Google Earth. It's very quick. Only take a minute to familiarize yourself. You've got Israel, then east of Israel, you've got Jordan, and east of Jordan, you've got kind of Syria, comes down in an odd shape, and then Iraq, and then Iran. Iran retaliated with missiles. That has been going on now since then. Initially, President Donald Trump said that it was an initiative just of Israel, that Israel had taken unilateral action to prevent Iran from having a nuclear bomb. He was then confronted. I don't know if he was confronted in person, but the entire internet was asking the same question. How is it that once again, the President of the United States, the country providing the necessary support for these Israeli actions, has no idea what his country is up to, what his armed forces are up to? And so he then said, he was consulted, he knew in advance. It turns out that this operation was planned over a year ago. So for over a year, Israel knew that at roughly this point in time, roughly speaking, they would attack Iran. They were meant to hold talks on Sunday. They were meant to hold the next round of talks to resolve this ongoing matter of Iran and the nuclear bomb. And Iran was through that. This is a well-known thing. This is not a controversial thing that I'm about to assert now. The Iranis were lulled into a false sense of security. In other words, they didn't believe that they would be attacked on Friday because they believed that there was good faith concerning the talks due to be held on Sunday. What is controversial in some people's minds is the following statement. Iran does not have a nuclear bomb, and it does not have a nuclear weapons program. Nada, zilch, zat, nothing, end of story. And we know this, firstly, through what might be described as a claim, perhaps a false claim, just a claim. As I might claim to you that I'm not a robber purely for the purposes of fooling you before I plunder your house. But let's begin with that claim. And that is in the form of the fatwa against nuclear weapons that the head of Iran, the Ayatollah Khamenei, issued some years ago in collaboration with other religious scholars, in which they said that the basis of the fatwa, which is a ban, a forbidding, is that nuclear weapons are so wicked in nature that Allah does not approve of them. Then we can firm up this assertion, this controversial assertion, with something a little bit more substantial than a mere claim. The International Atomic Energy Agency has conducted countless inspections in Iran. And after every inspection, they've said the same thing. Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, and Iran is not endeavoring to build a nuclear weapon. But more than that, they've said, we are confident that we were shown every single facility that was pertinent to this exercise, this inspection, and we never got the impression that something was being kept from us. More than that, there are highly advanced satellites that pick up radar signatures like you and I look at the backs of our hands. And there has never emerged any evidence of Iran enriching uranium for the purposes of nuclear weapons above the threshold for peaceful use. For instance, nuclear reactor use, atomic isotope research for medical purposes, and so on and so forth. Then we can firm it up further with two assertions out of America, more than assertions. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence of the USA, revealed that all 16 US intelligence agencies had agreed in a report, they'd co-signed a report fairly recently, stating that Iran is not developing nuclear weapons. They know that through whatever intelligence means. They were confident enough to say that, to declare that, to attest to that, to put their names and their signatures to that. Yesterday, CNN had an article in which it revealed that US intelligence agencies had a report, a joint report. Whether or not it's the same report was not revealed in the CNN article. It is an article on their website, in which those agencies explained that Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons, neither does it have a nuclear weapons program, that is to say, to enrich uranium to the point that it can be used for the purposes of a bomb, and then to put it into a warhead and manufacture a delivery vehicle, or adapt that warhead to an existing delivery vehicle, such as a cruise missile or a ballistic missile, of which they have many already. Moreover, in this report, whether or not it is the same report as the one to which Tulsi Gabbard was alluding, they said it would take Iran at least 3 years to reach that point. They were basically giving the lie to Benjamin Netanyahu's continual professions that Iran is on the threshold of having a nuclear weapon, so much so that he has said in recent hours that under no circumstances should there be a ceasefire, because Iran will use that opportunity to promptly complete their nuclear weapons program. I urge anybody who is not fond of me, or who is not fond of Suidlanders, or who is not fond of this narrative, or who is Israel besotted, and there's nothing wrong with being besotted. I've been besotted by girls and by children and by causes and beliefs my entire life long. I don't say that in a sort of pejorative way. I'm not looking down my nose upon anybody's head when I say, if you're an Israel fanatic, a Zionist, whatever, and you're not very keen on the things that I'm saying, no matter who you may be, I urge, please, 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 watch the interview concluded a very short while ago between Judge Andrew Napolitano and Scott Ritter, the former United Nations weapons inspector. There is no nuclear program, but Israel has attacked Iran on the basis of this nuclear weapons program, and the USA is in on the act. And the world is being fooled into going to war, as the USA always does fool the world, and Israel, on false pretenses. Anybody who's familiar with the civil war in the USA knows that it is one of the biggest bulldust stories in the history of lies. I pose one question to any genius who says to me that it was about slavery. How is it that the 5 slave states that joined the North were allowed to retain slavery? Professor, answer me that, and you get the 100,000 Rand prize and a kiss. Similarly, the Spanish-American War of 1899, I believe it began with supposedly an attack on the USS Maine, which later turned out to be false. America's next great foreign foray was in World War I, following the U-boat attack on the RMC, or RMS, I should say, Lusitania ship. Again, it later transpired to be false. That is to say, what the Americans claimed happened did not happen, and they used that known false claim to go to war in World War I, because there was enormous opposition to the USA entering that war. Public opposition and political and media and so on opposition. So they had to manufacture a confectionery of lies. Then World War II, Pearl Harbor. It's well understood and hugely documented that the USA was deliberately squeezing Japan and had sanctioned Japan via other countries to the point where Japan could not get access to 88% of the oil that it needed for its domestic purposes. And the US's pretext for sanctioning Japan so that it had could obtain only 12% of the oil that it needed was that Japan had invaded Manchuria, a portion of China. But at the same time, the USA was supporting the French in Indochina, what later became known as Vietnam. Then the Vietnam War, the Gulf of Tonkin incident, the USS Maddox, also turned out to be an utter confectionery, a series of layers of lies. There was no substance at all to it, or to them, to the lies. Then there was the attack on the USS Liberty in the Israeli 1967 war. I urge people on my knees with the tears streaming down my face, if you are unfamiliar with that, look it up. It was a complete hoax concocted between Israel and the USA in order to drag the USA into the 1967 war. Israeli planes and gunboats destroyed the USS Liberty in a pre-planned operation, killing, if I remember correctly, 277 sailors? I forget the US number, the correct number. Then the first invasion of Iraq in 1991. Scratch around a bit and try to read up on the Kuwaiti, I forget the correct word, but Kuwait and Iraq shared an underground oil field that straddled their mutual border. And they had an agreement on how it would be exploited. And the Iraqis discovered that the Kuwaitis were drilling sideways to take more than their agreed share of the oil. And for years, the Iraqis, I beg your pardon, bleated and whined and moaned and complained and objected to it until eventually they had enough and they invaded Kuwait. That was the true reason for the invasion of Kuwait. But nobody will talk about it. I don't say that Saddam Hussein was a splendid fellow. I do say that the invasion of Kuwait was not without reason. There was a good reason, as wicked as the man may have been. There was a reason that was at the time very, very, very well documented. And if anybody's interested, they can go and look it up. Then we had weapons of mass destruction. We know now that at every single level, it was well understood that there were no weapons of mass destruction to precipitate the US invasion of Iraq. The second Gulf War in 2003. In 2001, the attack on the World Trade Center, I put a video on my WhatsApp groups, that is to say the Suidlanders WhatsApp groups that I run, again today, a good video by Sean of TPV. If anybody's not sure, they don't have access to a group, they're from overseas, they're too shy to ask around for my number, they don't know. If you feel alienated from access to what I'm talking about, just search for it on Telegram or on Twitter. Sean of TPV, the channel, he has a new video out documenting the utter rubbish of that narrative that led to over 1 million civilians, 1 million civilians dying, starting with the World Trade Center destruction. It was as Bibi Netanyahu called it, it was a detonation. It was a detonation that was set up over the period of a year by a group of Israelis posing as art students from art schools that didn't exist. And there are photographs of them that are quite revealing. You know, there's all sorts of evidence. If somebody who's listening to this is still one of those people who believes that those trade centers were brought down by jumbo jets, please do yourself, not me, a favor and look up the story of the dancing Israelis, the E-team, and Gelatine. Gelatine as in gelignite. Art students who worked in the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center for a year, planting the detonators and what have you to bring them down. This is how the USA and Israel are. You may love them as much as you like. You may wish that you'd been one of the Afrikaner refugees Donald Trump took in his arms while stroking your hair gently and telling you, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. You might be in love with Zion. It's okay. But we must agree on one thing. These guys have a long, long, long history of dragging the world into war on the basis of outright fallacies. And that's what's happening again now. Now to get to the facts, and I'll be as brief as possible. I see the time. We only have about 15 minutes left. The Israelis initially had very much the upper hand in this thing, Marius. Since then, it's changed a little bit. By no means is Israel being bashed while Iran is having a great time of it. Far from it. Both sides are hammering one another. They're pummeling one another. But the tables have turned a little bit. Today, particularly, we saw evidence of that. But that evidence has been mounting over the past 4 days. From day one, we witnessed that a number of old, more than 30 years old Irani ballistic missiles managed to successfully penetrate Israel's 4 integrated overlapping air defense systems. The Terminal High Altitude Air Defense, or THAAD, from the USA, the Patriot system from the USA, the Iron Dome, David Sling, and the Arrow system. On the second day, we saw more successful penetrations by Israeli ballistic missiles. On day 3, a little bit more, so that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, particularly at nighttime. Monday night, again, the Israelis started the exchange, which is not to say that Israel's wrong. I'm just documenting the chronology. The Israelis kicked off very successfully. They have successfully assassinated, by my count, somebody disagreed with me today, but I'm fairly confident that I've kept a good loose record in the back of my mind. By now, over 40 of Iran's most senior military commanders and related personnel. They did a great job overnight, and last night the Iranis were fairly quiet in their retaliation or response. Then today, during daylight hours, from about dawn, the Iranis hit back, and they have absolutely thumped Israel. Their strikes have not all been perfectly successful, by no means. For example, we saw tremendous video evidence early on this morning of strikes on the security cluster complex, if you like, near Glilot in Israel, that houses Mossad and Unit 8200 and Shin Bet, these Israeli intelligence agencies. And initially there was a lot of excitement, for better and for worse, not necessarily good excitement, across the internet over that. Then it turned out that all four of the ballistic missiles, these older ballistic missiles, that did manage to penetrate the tightest air defenses in the world. It's generally accepted that the tightest air defenses in the world are the air defenses of Israel, and the air defenses of Tel Aviv and surrounds are the tightest in Israel. And the air defenses above this particular security complex are the tightest of Tel Aviv and surrounds. The four older ballistic missiles that were able to penetrate this impenetrable overlapping web of 5 different air defense systems did not strike the main Mossad building, which appears to have been within this cluster or complex, if you like, the principal or perhaps the only target. So by no means are we saying that Iran is winning and Israel is losing. All that we're saying is that there is an overwhelming body of video evidence that reveals that Iran has been hammered over the past Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday nights, but that perhaps Israel is being hammered, certainly by now, a little bit more. And Marius, I don't know if you've got questions or anything, but I really wanted to get that off my chest, a comprehensive description of the deceit to which we're being exposed, and a brief overview of what is the status quo for those people who are not following developments moment by moment, as I find myself doing from Moscow, Russia.
I just want to add to that, Simon. Yossi Melman, he's an Israeli military affairs specialist. He said the euphoria was short-lived. On Friday morning, I asked whether it was necessary to start the war, especially against the Iranians. The Shiites are historically willing to suffer. I mentioned their willingness to sacrifice as they demonstrated in the 8 years of attrition with Iraq. I recommend that we cut the losses and turn to Trump and stop this madness and agree to a reasonable agreement. Otherwise, we will be begging this for ceasefire, and Iran will refuse. So this is one of the Israeli military affairs specialists, Yossi Malman, that said, listen here, the euphoria was short-lived. Are we really going to stick to our guns? Because these guys know how to suffer. They're on a different level of enduring. Are we really gonna go all the way? Are we willing to put all our cards on the table with these boykies that are willing to suffer? I don't think we can make it. Is his words basically that he said in the article.
Yeah, this taxi driver is driving like an absolute maniac. If people are wondering if the noise is in the background, he's driving like a 100% maniac who deserves to be in a loony bin. And I'm being thrown around all over the show here. Marius, yes, but Yossi Melman is completely missing the point. These, let me put it bluntly, as people will see if they watch the video interview by Andrew Napolitano of Scott Ritter of just about an hour ago. Trump has been in on this from the very beginning. The man is one of the
Yeah.
great manifest liars of the world. It's just a fact. I've been warning of this since 2018, and it horrifies everybody. Theo Diaga, our international viewers won't know who that is, but he's a very prominent kind of, he's the head of a very prominent, powerful, influential Afrikaner civil society organization. Theo Diaga did an interview recently entitled Why Afrikaners Love Donald Trump. So I know very well from bitter experience over the past 7 years that people adore him, they adore him, they adore him. They say he's anti-LGBTQ, and it means nothing, absolutely nothing, that he's got a man married to a man as his Secretary of the Treasury. That he lies like nobody. Like Joe Biden lacks the talent, the innate ability, the skill, the genius, the human material to lie like Donald Trump. He is a fantastic liar. And anybody who's listened to the interview, the Michael Wolff interview that I disseminated some time ago, knows about this. He just has a talent for bull dusting people that has conservatives around the world absolutely flabbergasted and fooled and bewildered and perplexed and enchanted and entranced. And for 7 years, I've been pointing this out. Thank goodness, in recent days, I've gotten an ally in the form of Tucker Carlson, who did an enormous interview saying, hey, this is all the opposite of what we were told. And my point being, Yossi Melman is never, ever in a million years going to get his wish. Donald Trump bought into this a long, deep, dark, mysterious time ago. Donald Trump is at the very, very heart of it. Donald Trump is hell-bent on seeing this succeed. Marius, sorry, but that had to be my reply. In the spirit of Christian decency, I had to just tell the truth.
Yeah. No problem, Simon. Our time is almost up. Maybe Thursday we can just have a quick mention of Israel that said none of the Israeli population are allowed to leave the country, first and foremost. And secondly, they're not allowed to film any of the missiles coming through. They will apprehend anybody that has filmed any missiles coming through that destroyed buildings or whatever, and they will be prosecuted. Maybe we can do that on Thursday. Throw that in being what's the tactics? Why is Israel doing that to its own population and so forth? But once again, Simon, thanks for a nice chat, and I'll see you then on Thursday again.
Yeah, it might end up having to be tomorrow, Marius, but I'll keep in touch with you. There's a lot going on here, and it's unfortunately kind of controlling my time. But nevertheless, see you soon.
Thanks,
cheers,
Simon.
Marius. All right. Cheerio.
Good. Cheers, Simon. Have a great one.
Thanks. Same to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.